Hello everyone, in this video I'll show you how to knit this striped vest. I hope you will enjoy it, and if you do, don't forget to hit subscribe, like this video, and let's get into it. And to make this vest, I will be using this super chunky yarn. I've got 3 colors and I will be doing it in stripe work. Then you will need 9mm needles with cable, scissors, and needle. Now this vest is gonna be done in 2 panels, so front and back, then assembled together and finished by doing the collar and arms. So what you need to do first is to knit up a swatch of stockinette stitch and see how many stitches you will need for the panel of your vest. And I will start with ribbing, so I will leave my gauge in the description down below, but if you have different yarn you can do your gauge swatch and figure out how many stitches you will need. And I have my yarn that I will be using for a ribbing of my vest. This is how much of a tail I have because this is a long tail cast, and I'm making a slip knot just like this. Put it on your needle and cast any number that is multiples of 4. So when you did your gauge swatch and figure out the number of stitches you need for the length, round it up to either the smaller one or a bigger one, whichever you prefer. And I will be casting on 48. So to cast on, you want to grab your working yarn with this index finger and your tail with your thumb, put it down like this, go through this and to this and back. I hope this makes sense, but you are basically putting your needle behind this first one, then you grab this one and go back like so. Pull it tight and repeat until you have needed number of stitches, which is again have to be multiples of 4. And once you're done, if you have quite a bit of leftover, just trim it off. So that's the tail I'm trimming, and I'm keeping the yarn that I'm working with. And now we will be working our ribbing, which is knit 2, purl 2, and repeat. So you will knit the first 2 stitches, purl the next 2, and repeat. And just to show you, so to knit the 2 stitches, you want to have your working yarn in the back of the needle. Go through the first stitch like this, so from the left to right and to the back, wrap it around, pull it through, and slip the stitch off. Now one more time, go from the left to the right to the back, yarn under, and grab the yarn. So that's 2 knit stitches done. Now to do the purl, you want to bring the tail in front of you, grab the stitch from right to left, grab your working yarn and wrap it around, go back and slip the stitch off. Again to purl like so. So then you put the yarn back and do your 2 knit stitches. Again to the front to do the purl stitches. And this is what you will repeat till the end. And just because you started with 2 knit stitches, you should end with 2 purl if you have multiples of 4. So I'm gonna do this row and I will meet you at the end. And I'm now done with my first row. So these 2 stitches are knit ones and the last 2 are purled. So this is what you want to have to make sure that you've got correct amount of stitches. It starts with 2 knit, ends with 2 purl. And if that's correct, you want to grab your work. Now once you've got your first row done, this is what you will repeat. So knit 2, purl 2, and repeat. for as many rows as you need. I'm gonna be doing a total of 8 rows, and this is how big my ribbing is gonna be. But yeah, just to show you one more time, these are knit stitches, so you go in as to knit, then the next two are purled, and you can tell them apart. They have those horizontal bars, while the knit ones looks like these. So those that look like purls, you purl, and those that look like knit, you knit. Now I've got 8 rows and just wanted to show you how to count them, just in case you are confused. So some of people don't count the cast on row, but for these 8 rows I do, and you can see your cast on here, which creates the first row whether you count it or not. So that's my first row, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and this is 8th. So whatever you have on the loop is your row as well, because it's been knitted. So we will change color now, but this does count as a row. So make sure you count 8 from the very bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now you can cut off this color and grab your next color that you will be using, which is this gray for me. And before you go, I want to show you your right and wrong side. So when you have it right side up, you will be doing knit rows, and when you have it wrong side up, you will be doing purl rows. So the right side is the one that I have up now. This is where I finished off my old color, and those loops for cast on looks like this, while on the wrong side the cast on looks a bit more like a purl row. It has a bit more of those loops, as you can see here. So that's your wrong side. And for the next row, you want to grab your new color, and we will be knitting this as this is our right side. So grab your new color, do your first stitch, and continue doing knit till the end of your row. So I'm gonna finish my knit row and I'll see you at the end. And I just did my knit row. So now when you turn, you should be on your wrong side, and this is where I will be doing my purl row. So you should be able to tell that it's already formed into a row of purls, and when you see them, you are doing row of purls. So I will purl all stitches, and I will then see you at the end of my row. And that's my purl row done. So now you will be repeating those knit and purl rows until you reach your desired length, which should be below the armpit. And I'll show you what I mean up on the screen here. It's basically because we will be casting off some stitches to shape the armholes. So yeah, make the rows up until you want your bust to be from the bottom to the armpit, and I'll show you what to do next. And I will be doing 6 rounds in this gray, and then I will change color, which I'll show you how to do, as it is a bit different from what we did here, as we are creating those raised stitches in the front. So let me do my rows and I will meet you then to show you how to change color. Now this is where I will change color. So I have 6 rows and 7th on my needles. And changing color, you want to do the opposite row of what you have. So if you are changing color while being on the right side, you want to do purl rows with your new color. And if you are on the wrong side like me, you want to do knit rows on this wrong side. So grab your new color and go as if to knit with your new color. being on the wrong side, and if you are on the right side, then do a row of purls. But yeah, it might be a bit odd, but I'll show you in a second what I mean by doing this. So I'm just gonna knit this row till the end, and I'll show you what it looks like. And when you do finish your row, you will see on your right side those two colors interlapping like so, and this is because the opposite stitch is shown on the right side. So on the right side it will be showing as a purl, whether you are doing purl a new color on your knit side or you're doing your knit on a purl side. So yeah, after that you are going to continue doing knit rows on knit and purl rows on purl. I have now 38 rows from the very first one here, and this is where I will be finishing off some stitches at the beginning and the end. This is to shape the armhole, so this basically will fold under your armpit. So I'm going to be finishing off 8 stitches at the beginning and 8 at the end, but you can do any amount that you need. Just make sure that whatever you leave here that will be still knitted and purled is gonna fit from shoulder to shoulder. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off the first 8 stitches, and to cast off you want to start off by knitting the first 2 stitches. So that's 1 and 2, and you will be putting this loop through this one, so kind of like this. Then go ahead and knit 1 so that you always have 2 loops on your right needle, and pull it through. Knit 1 and pull it through. So that's 4 done. My 5th one. 6th. 7th and 8th. Now you will be left with this loop here, so you want to put it back on the left needle. And now I'm gonna keep knitting the stitches until I reach the last 8, so that's 32 for me because I had 48 stitches in total, so minus 16 for both sides, it's 32. And this is the stitch from the cast off, so you want to knit these two together just to secure the cast off. So go through both loops like this and knit it, and then just continue knitting until you reach the same amount of stitches as you cast it off at the beginning. And I now have 8 stitches left, so I'm just going to show you how to cast off using your hook as well. I find this way easier than using the needles, and basically you want to use the same number hook that your needles are. So my needles are 9mm, same for the hook, and you basically go in, knit the first 2 stitches like so, and pull it through. Then knit 1 at a time to always have 2 on your hook, and repeat this till the end. Chain 1 at the end, cut off your yarn and pull it through. Now I only have 32 stitches left, and this is where I will be bringing new color. If you want to continue in the same color, you would just be attaching the same color into your stitch because it obviously ended here, but this is where I will change color. So I'm gonna turn my work to the wrong side, and on this side I will be doing knit row. So straight into the first stitch, grab your new color or the same one and knit the first stitch, drop your tail and continue knitting. Once you're done with this row, from now on, as we always did, you will be doing knit rows on knit side, so your right side, and purl rows on your wrong side, until this now becomes big enough until you reach your neck, and then we will be doing shoulders. So keep building on those rows and change color whenever you want until you reach the length up until your neck. So basically we will be doing shoulder and color ribbing as well, so leave a bit of space for that, but yeah, just make rows until your preferred length. I'm gonna do mine and I will meet you then. And I'm now finished with my full length rows where I finished for the armhole. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I have 6 rows in this gray, 12 rows for this blue, and I'm on 10th row for this pink one. And this is where I'm gonna stop because it's now long enough for me, and I'm still leaving a bit of spacing for ribbing, so account for that too. But this is where I will be shaping the shoulders, meaning I will work on these 2 sides for my shoulders, but I will finish this part off for my collar. Now you can choose how many stitches you finish off. I will be finishing off 16 stitches in the middle. That's gonna leave me with 8 on both sides for my shoulder part. So you can do any stitches you want, just I would recommend putting it against you and seeing how many stitches you need to leave. But then again, imagine that you have a collar around, so leave some space for that too. And now I'm just gonna knit 8 stitches for my shoulder part. So that's 8. Now I'm gonna finish remaining, so I have 8 left and that's 16 for me. So to start, again, I'm knitting the first 2 so I can start my cast off, and basically I'm putting this loop through the second one like so, then knitting the next one and again pulling it through the loop. So I'm going to repeat this till I reach my last 8 stitches. And this is what it looks with all of these stitches finished off. So I still have this last loop from casting off. You want to put that back on your left needle, and this is an extra stitch that comes out of the cast off, so you basically want to knit it together with the next one just because you don't want an extra stitch. So I showed this before, and just because this is the left side, you want the left leaning decrease. What you can do is basically slip the first 2 stitches, put them back on your left needle and knit them together like this. Then knit remaining ones. And again, this is 8 stitches for me. Like so, and this is what it looks. So now you want to grab all of these stitches and leave them for a second until we come back, as we will be working on the shoulder. Now I have this thing that you can hold your stitches onto, and this is what I'm gonna use, but you can also use needle and some yarn, tie it together and then cut it up later when you need to pick up those stitches. But yeah, I'm just gonna take my needle out and I'm gonna work on this shoulder, and I'm just gonna purl all of the stitches So it's again 8 stitches for me. Now for the knit row, I'm gonna decrease the first stitch, and it's left leaning decrease, so I'm gonna slip the first 2 stitches, put them back on my left needle and do a decrease like so, and then knit the rest. Now for the last row, I'm gonna purl all 7, and this is going to be the last row. So I will purl all of these and then I will cast off. And now to cast off. So this is what I have for the shoulder of my front panel. You can do more rows if you are making bigger size, or you can do less as well, depending on what size you are making. This is where I'm stopping and I'm gonna cast it off. So I'm gonna knit the first 2 stitches to begin, and then pull through the loop, then knit 1, pull it through, and so on till I reach the end. And to finish this off, you want to chain 1, so pull the yarn through, cut your yarn off, leaving a bit of a tail because we will be using this yarn to sew the 2 shoulders of both front and back panel, like so. And now all you left to do is to do this shoulder. It's all the same, just basically the crease that you made for this one, so it was on round 3, it's gonna be the right leaning decrease because it's on the right side and we want the decrease leaning this way. So I'm just gonna put everything back on. And this already has 1 row complete. We did knit row when we cast it off, so I'm just gonna grab my same color yarn and I will turn my work to do purl row. So it's again 8 stitches for me, and I'm gonna decrease on next row. You can do more decreases if you would like to, if you do more rows especially, but yeah, I'm gonna purl all these stitches. Now this is the row with the decrease, so we are decreasing into the last 2 stitches instead of the first 2 because it has to be close to the middle where our color is. And I'm just gonna knit the first 6 stitches until I reach my last 2. Now for these 2, I'm just gonna go in through both together and knit this way. Then for my last row, it's just basically 7 purl stitches like I did for the other shoulder as well. So I'm gonna purl those 7, cast it off, finish off with a long tail for sewing later, and that's it for the front panel. And just to cast off now, so knit the first 2 stitches, pull it through, knit the next one, again pull it through, and repeat until you run out of stitches. pull through the yarn and tighten it up with the longer tail for sewing later. And this is it for the front panel. Now you will need to repeat the same for your back panel, and the only difference would be if you want to make less rows for the shoulder, you can do so. So for example, I did 4 for the front, and just because the back neck area isn't as scooped as the front, you can make less rows. So if I did 4 for the front, I would be maybe doing 2 for the back, and then more rows in these long ones. So I had 10, I will do 12 and only 2 for the shoulders. But this time I'm keeping the same shoulders for my back as well, because this is chunky yarn and it's not that visible. Plus my ribbing is gonna be a bit longer than usual, so I'm gonna repeat exactly the same steps for my back panel as well. But it's just a tip what you can do for your back panel to make it look a bit better with not as big collar part. Now before I go ahead and make another panel, I will be hiding the tails, and I'll show you how to do that. So there will be 2 types of tails: the tails that you have for your ribbing and tails that you have for your purl rows, as this is wrong side. So how I hide the ribbing rows is basically using this needle that is kind of tilted to one side. You don't have to use this, but it makes it a bit easier to go into the stitches. And where I go into the stitches is these knit rows. So I'm just gonna go into this very first one here and basically make my way to these loops. And then I'm just picking stitches like this. This is why that needle is helpful, because it's a bit tilted and it's easier to grab as many as you can in one go. But if you don't have the needle, you can just go into one loop like this, pull it through, go into the next one, and I'm now at the very top. You will need to go down just to make sure that tail is secure enough. So I'm just gonna make my way to the next row of knit stitches. I just turned my work upside down, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing by just grabbing those knit stitches all the way down and pulling my tail through. Once it's done, you can cut it off. And now to hide the tails into your purl rows, I have one of the tails that I have in my needle, and you will basically be doing a knit stitch on this side so it doesn't show on the right side. You want to kind of stretch your work a bit so you can better see those loops, and I hope it's visible enough. But basically these loops are your knit stitches, and they are all connected with 3 purl stitches. So this one loop has this bottom purl stitch, then 1 to the side and 1 on the other side. So 1, 2, and 3. And this is what you will do. You will go into the bottom loop, into this next one, and then from the top you will go into the left one down to the bottom one. So kind of like this, making a loop, and then you will move into the next one, pick up the bottom, go through the top, and from the top into these 2 like this. So I'm gonna start from the bottom here. I'll find my first stitch, which is here. It doesn't have that purl stitch on a side, so I'm just gonna go from the bottom to the side like so, and from the top into the left purl and down into the bottom one. Then my next one is here. If I stretch it a bit, you can clearly see this loop that looks like knit stitch, and it has the bottom loop going to the right loop, and then from the top down into those 2 purl stitches like this. And you can see that the yarn follows the same pattern that is on the right side. This way it doesn't show and ruin the pattern on your right side. So keep repeating these steps to hide your tail in. It's gonna make your work chunkier, but it's not gonna show on the other side if you do it this way. And it's also pretty secure. It doesn't come out that easily, so you don't have to do it too many times. And as you can see, I'm running out of my tail, so I'm just gonna do it one last time, and you can then cut the tail off. And this is how it will look from the right side. So this is where I hidden the tail. It's a bit chunkier, you can feel that, but it doesn't show on the right side because all you do is basically you are replicating the knit stitches. And yeah, so you will need to hide all of those tails in, apart from these two that you have from the shoulders left, because we will be using those for sewing. Then repeat the same exact thing for your back panel, and you don't have to leave the tails the second time. One is just enough, and once you do that, I will meet you then. Once you've got your front and back panels, you want to put them together, wrong sides in, so that you have right side out, and with the tail left from one of the shoulders, you will need to join these two together. Then you want to grab your needle with this leftover yarn, pick up those two shoulders and go into the first stitch like so, on this one that does not have a tail. Then go into the first one on this one. Into the next stitch on both sides. And this is what you will repeat. So go into the third stitch on both sides and repeat this till the end. Make sure that your stitches are lined up. And once you're done, hide the tail on the wrong side. Cut it off. And this is how it will look. Now you will need to join the side of your vest as well. And you can use any color, as this will be seamless, but I will be using pink because it does start with pink and end with pink, but you can use any color. Now have your side like so, right side up, and grab a bit of yarn. Now how we will be joining this is slightly different from how we join the shoulder, but basically you want to find the row that you made here, and you will be going into the loops that kind of hiding in between the stitches. So these horizontal bars that you have, this is where you will be putting your needle through. I hope this is clear enough. So that's what we're gonna do on both sides, and I'm just gonna attach my yarn into this first one here. Then I'm gonna go into this one just to start off, leaving a bit of a tail, which I will hide later on. And I'm gonna go and pick up one loop at a time on both sides. Like this. And it should be a bit easier to understand once you go to the knit rows. And again, you basically find the bar that's in between your stitch and go from one side to another. So I'm gonna find the first one here, then do the same on the other side, and repeat this till I reach the armpit here. So this is what I'm gonna repeat until it's all joined together. Now, once you pull it tight, it's pretty seamless. As you can see, the pink hides in between the stitches and it's only the gray that shows. Now I'm just gonna do this until I finish those two color stripes, and I will meet you at the end. And this is what it will look all joined together. As you can see, the pink yarn doesn't come through, but just in case it wasn't clear enough, I will leave a link into the videos that show how to join the yarn row-wise as well as side-wise. So that's gonna be linked in description down below. But once you've done that, you will need to repeat the same thing on the other side and your shoulder again, which I already did. So now I'm gonna do the armholes as well as the collar. Now to do the collar, you want to grab your needles. You can either size down or keep the same as I do, which is 9mm, the same as I worked the main pattern. You want to find the seam you made, go into the first space, and these are the spaces because it's side of your rows until you come to these casted off stitches. But yeah, just find a space, grab your yarn and pull it through. Leave a bit of a tail so that we can hide it later on, and go all around and cast on stitches. You want to cast all around, and at the end make sure you have multiples of 4. And if you don't have multiples of 4, just cast on an extra stitches until it is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cast off the stitches in all of the spaces like so. And now I'm at these stitches, so I'm just going in through those 2 loops and casting on. I'm gonna repeat this all around, and I will meet you at the end. And I finished my cast on. I ended up with 47 stitches, so I casted an extra 1 to make it 48, which is multiples of 4. And this is what we need for the pattern because it's gonna be knit 2, purl 2, and repeat. And this will be worked in round, so you will need a stitch marker. To begin working in round, you need to join the both ends. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up this loop and I will pull the second one over like so. I'm not gonna drop anything, I'm gonna leave it as it is, and this is where I'm gonna put the stitch marker, but this time it's just this loop of yarn. And I will begin working on my row. So I'm gonna start by doing 2 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches. If your cable is too long to work in a round, you can always grab it like so and then just switch when you come to the next stitches. But yeah, the next 2 are purl and repeat. So knit 2, and purl 2. And when you finish the stitches on one side of the cable, just pull your needle through like this. And then continue working on your stitches. But when doing the first one, make it super tight so there are no gaps. So yeah, I'm just gonna repeat this until I reach my stitch marker, and then I will meet you then. And now I finished my first round, so I'm just gonna move the stitch marker up, and you don't have to do anything from here. You're just gonna continue doing the stitches. So where you have knit, you will knit. Where you have purl, you will purl for as many rows as you want your color to be. So I'm just gonna go straight in, make this first one super tight, and continue around like so until I have enough rows. And I did 4 rounds of color, so this is where I'm gonna finish off. I will be casting off with a hook, so you can either use your needle or grab 9mm hook, same as the one you use. So if you sized it down, use the same hook that you did use for the needles. And to cast off ribbing wise, you want to knit the first 2 stitches, pull it through. The next are purls, so I'm gonna bring the tail forward, I'm gonna purl the next, slip it off and pull it through. Again, the next one is purled, so I'm gonna purl that and pull it through. This is what I will repeat. If the stitch is knit, you will knit it, then pull it through. Again, the next one is knit, so knit that and pull it through. And for the purls, you always purling. So I'm gonna purl one at a time, pull it through. Again, same with the next one, just like so. So repeat this until you finish casting off all stitches, and I will see you at the end. When you finish casting off, just chain 1 to secure, cut your tail off, leaving a bit so we can hide it in. And this is what it will look once done. Now for the armhole ribbing, I'm not gonna show how to do it because it's the same exact thing as for the color. You cast on multiples of 4 and repeat knit 2, purl 2, ribbing all around for as many rows as you want. And the only difference I will be doing is when I start my cast on, I'm gonna cast on in the next 2 spaces and skip the 3rd, then repeat cast on and skip, just because I want the ribbing to be kind of on a tighter side, not too many stitches, so not as wide. You can cast on any amount you want, just make sure it's multiples of 4. I'm gonna do mine and I will meet you with the finished result. And I'm done with the armhole ribbing. This is how it looks. I ended up having 52 stitches for both of them, so exactly the same. I used gray yarn and I did 5 rows, same as for the color. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in my next one.